Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Stamperia Blue Dream mini album tutorial series designed for Scrap and Create. In this video, we are going to be decorating pages 3 and page 6 because they are both similar designs. So stay tuned. This is the paper that I will be using for the front of page 3. If you remember when we did the build, I mentioned that we are going to be cutting a frame out of this. And we're just going to be cutting it on the paper trimmer like we did with the frame itself. However, if you aren't comfortable doing it this way, you can use a ruler. You're going to measure 1 inch around each of the 4 sides. But I'm going to use my paper trimmer to do this. So I'm going to place my page up at the 1 inch mark. I'm going to start at 1 inch and go down to 7 inches. Turning, I'm going to again line up the edge at 1, starting at 1 inch and cutting down to 7. Turning again, lining up at 1, starting from 1, cutting down to 7. And one more time, lining up the edge at 1, starting at 1, cutting down to 7. So now I have my frame, and when I bring my page in, my frame will sit perfectly on my page and have a nice border around the outside and the inside. So I'm going to repeat that process with this paper. This is going to be the back side of the page. So I'm going to do the same exact thing, lining up my paper at 1, cutting from 1 to 7 inches on all 4 sides. I've also taken this paper for the front that's in a 12 by 12 size. I've cut the border strip off the bottom of it to 1 inch by 8 inches. This is going to be this front. And then I've cut a piece of my lighter blue solid cardstock to 1 inch by 8 inches for the inside. So we're going to go ahead and start adhering these on. And first what I'm going to do is just adhere this back side all around my frame. Now that I have my paper on the back side, I'm going to flip over and add my piece to the top of my flap, and I'm going to make sure that this blue part of the strip is towards the bottom. Once this is on, I'm going to flip this up, and I'm going to be placing my magnet so that it sits right about here. So I know where I want it to be on my framed piece, so I'm going to just place it here. Then I'm going to place it here on this piece, and this measures about 3/4 of an inch over and about 3/4 of an inch down. Next, I'm going to adhere this piece to cover the magnet. Once this magnet's covered, I'm going to place my second magnet over top, add my adhesive to place this magnet. Now, if you're using basic gray, all you have to do is peel off that back, close this up, and place your magnet in the correct position. I have my punch sitting here just to hold this flap down a little bit. And I've taken some of my ephemera pieces, my postage stamps, and my flowers, and I've just arranged them like this. I'm going to make a cluster, then we're going to back this on cardstock and fussy cut around it. We're going to make this a closure. So I have this overlapping on this corner here because I'm going to put another magnet underneath all of these between this and the actual backing cardstock, and then I'll place a magnet down below this. This is not yet attached, so we didn't miss a step here. I just have it on the page so I know where to arrange my pieces. So I'm just going to first be very careful about this and pick out just the corner on the backing paper just to get this to stick down on the top of this stamp here. Then I'm going to do the same thing with this corner of the stamp. Gonna take this flower next. And all I'm doing here is just peeling off little pieces just to get these to be stuck together. I will remove the rest of the backing when I'm ready to put this on my cardstock. So for right now, it's just to stick them all down so that they are one piece. So now I need to pull this whole cluster up here and remove a little bit of this bigger postage stamp, just that corner, to get it to catch on this final one. And I want to make sure that everything is layered together and spaced out across there. So now this is all one piece. So I'm going to now position this so that I'm going to take a magnet going to remove this frame for just a minute. And I want my magnet to be in the center, just below my closure. But I need to make sure that it's going to catch on the center of my rowboat stamp as well. So I'm just going to remove this backing. I'm going to be very careful when I do this because I don't want this stamp to actually adhere down to my page. So I'm just going to place this where I want it to pick up my stamp, or to pick up my magnet. And now I'm going to peel off the backing of all the rest of this on all of my pieces. And then I'm going to place this on a piece of cardstock to make my closure. I have an extra piece of cardstock here that I'm going to place this on. I'm going to press this down and burnish it with my bone folder to make sure that everything is adhered, especially around that magnet. I want to make sure that nothing pops up. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to fussy cut around this to form one unit. Now that I have my piece, I'm going to just double check this. Once again, I have my magnet stuck on the back of my second magnet. I'm going to add my adhesive. So if you have basic gray, just pull off that backing. And now we're going to place this. I can see where my magnet is, so I'm going to place this, making sure that when I do, that this is towards the center. It's not exactly centered, but it's towards the center of my piece. That way the paper will cover it. When I did mine, I made sure that this postage stamp was straight up and down because that's how I had it. When it was on here, it was more straight than anything. So that's how I'm going to keep my piece. So I'm going to place this back where it goes. Now this magnet here came up because I pulled the frame out from underneath of it, so I'm just going to place it back in the correct position. And now I'm going to take my frame and place it on here to cover both of those magnets. Now that my frame is on, when I close this, it's going to catch here. I'm going to take this piece and place it here. And now I'm going to move this until I like the look of it, so I can change it based on wherever I want it to be. I like it how it is here, so I'm going to take a pencil and very lightly, I'm going to trace around the top of my pieces so that I know where to place my adhesive. So I'm going to be applying my adhesive right onto my flap here. And then I'm going to line it up, let it snap into place, and then press this down. So now I have my closure on both sides. This will act as a way to lift up on the lid. So this is what it's going to look like from the back side here. And now I'm okay with that. If you are not okay with that and you don't want to see that, now's your chance to do something about it. You would just go ahead and open this up, take a piece of your decorative paper, place it on here, and then fussy cut around it so that that is covered. But like I said, I'm okay with that, so I'm going to leave it how it is. I'm going to take this little bowl of lemons. It's going to be the final decoration that I'm going to place on the front of this pocket. With this piece, I'm going to place this down here right at the edge of the frame so that the bowl is sitting at the edge of the decorative paper, and I'm going to apply that right on top of my acetate sheet as well. Again, you are going to see this from the back side. If you do not like the look of that, then you can go ahead and cover that before you place it on yours, but I'm okay with seeing that. For the inside of the pocket, I'm going to place this large card, placing a photo or journaling on it, whatever you would prefer. And then I've got a 5 3/4 by 5 3/4 piece. This was actually cut out from the centers of these frames. I've got 2 pieces of the decorative paper. This was from the 12 by 12 in a strip. So I have cut this to 1.5 by 5.5. One piece is going to go on the front on each side, or on the top on each side, front and back. And then I have 2 white photo mats that measure 4 inches by 5.5, and one is going to go on the bottom, front and back. So I'm going to add these to my page, then we're going to put this page in the album. I have my album now in front of me. I've flipped page 1 and page 2 open. We're going to add page 3. So I'm going to now add my adhesive to the top section on my middle tab on the left-hand side. Now I'm going to open up this page and set my piece right down on that tab, making sure to line that up right next to the score line and making sure that everything is straight across in my book. Then I'm going to press this down, burnish it with my bone folder so that it adheres really well. I'm going to flip this and move my book. Coming over to the back side, I'm going to take my adhesive and apply it to that 1/2 inch tab section on the back. And then I'm also going to apply my adhesive along the bottom edge. And now I'm going to close up the page to form my pocket. Once my page is in my book, I'm going to go ahead, flip it over so you will see everything is nice and straight and even. The lines are straight here. I'm going to open this, add my large card. It fits almost perfectly in there too, so if you wanted to keep that in there, you could. Or you can place your photo mat in front, and when you have a photo on it, you'll see your photo right through there. Now this pocket will hold more if you want to put more in it, but I'm only going to be putting those 2 things in it for now. So then when we flip over, again, you will see that paper on the back side. If all of that stuff is removed, you'll be able to see through to the page before it. So we've got our pocket number 3 done. We're going to repeat that process for pocket page number 6. For the top closure of page 6, I've cut a 1 inch by 8 inch strip from this paper here, 12 by 12. And then I cut a 1 inch by 8 inch strip of the light colored blue cardstock. So this will be the front and the inside on the flap. And then I have my piece that we cut previously. This is from the 12 by 12 paper. It's 8 inches by 8 inches. And I'm going to cut this one just like I cut the previous one, where I'm going to cut this at 1 inch from 1 to 7 all the way around. Now for this piece, I'm going to cut this one a little bit differently. I'm going to be fussy cutting this part of the image, so I'm not just going to be cutting a full square. I'm going to put the top edge in first. I am going to cut this at 1 inch from 1 to 7. Then I'm going to flip this and come down the right-hand side at 1 inch. But as soon as I get to about 3 inches, I'm going to stop. That's where I'm going to actually start my fussy cutting. I'm not going to be cutting anything across the bottom. I'm going to flip now to the left-hand side. On this one, I'm going to start here at 7, and I'm going to come down to about 1.5, and I'm going to stop cutting. So now I have partially cut my page. I'm just going to go ahead and start fussy cutting around all of this. And I'm also going to cut down into my paper. So I'm going to mark this at 1 inch from the bottom edge so that I know how far down I need to cut into my images. So I'm going to fussy cut this, and then I'll be back and show you what this piece looks like. This is what my piece looks like having been fussy cut. And when I lay it on my frame, you'll see that it still lays really well along most of the frame. You'll see some down here too, but then this image just kind of takes over a little part of the page. I'm going to add 2 magnets here underneath the paper like we did on the first one over here. We're just going to place 2 of them under the flap instead of having a second one with a closure. So I'm just going to add my first one over here, kind of centering it in the middle of here and here. Same thing with this one. And then I'm going to prepare my piece here to place this on my page. Now, where my images meet the acetate, I'm going to be using just very small pieces. I have 1/8 inch tape. I'm going to put a little tiny piece on the tip of this leaf, a piece up here on the lemon, a piece on the bird's head, a piece on this lemon, on this leaf, and on this leaf. So I'm not going to be putting a lot, but just enough to hold that down. So very small pieces. The nice thing about this is that this pattern is so busy, I don't think that I'll really notice too much on the back side through my window. So that's why I don't want to put a lot of adhesive, because I don't want to be able to see all of it through my window. So next, I'm going to remove all of that backing. Then I'm going to add my wet adhesive around that frame, and I'm going to place this on my frame on my page. So now I have my magnets placed and my cover over top of them. I'm going to add magnets on top just to be able to place these correctly on the top flap. So if you're using basic gray, go ahead and peel off the backing. Place your 2 magnets on that top flap where they need to go. And then cover those magnets with that light blue cardstock piece, and then add this piece to the front of the flap. This is the cut apart card that I'm going to place inside, and then I've taken another one of those pieces that was cut out of the frame. It's 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. I've placed a photo mat on each side. It measures 4 inches by 5.5. These strips are from the paper with the table and chairs and the door on it. This is the 12 by 12. It's 1.5 by 5.5. I'm going to flip them around this way and place one on each side of my photo mat. I have my album in here and we're ready to put the page in. We're going to skip this next tab and we're going to go to this back tab on the right hand side, placing adhesive on the 1/2 inch tab section at the top of the hinge. Going to open up my page, and then I'm going to place this down right next to that score line, making sure not to go over it, and then making sure everything is straight at the top and bottom. Then I will burnish this down. Now I'm going to flip open. I'm going to place my adhesive on the back side of the 1/2 inch tab section. and then right across the bottom to seal that up. And then I'm going to flip my page closed. And use my bone folder to burnish this so that it's nice and flat. Once I have my page in, I'm going to flip this back over. Going to place my cut apart card in here first, and then my photo mat in right on top of it. And then I'm going to close those flaps. So now we have page 6 and page 3 in our albums. All we have left are pages 4 and 5. So in the next video, we will begin decorating page 4, so stay tuned. And if you are new to the tutorial series, don't forget to check out the description box below where all of the links are on the Scrap and Create website to purchase the Stamperia Blue Dream collection.